Hi and hello guys, it is Gumi here, and before we get into the video, be sure to subscribe and check me out on my other socials, which will be linked down in the description, like always. Anyways, onto the video. Today's grand topic is to become your own happiness before you destroy yourself. And I came up with this video idea a very long time ago, and I feel like the reason why I created this video is because I suffer with mental health a lot, and one of the things that I suffer with is depression, along with like bipolar disorder and other things. And like, if you are familiar with my channel, you will hear me mention my mental health a lot. But the reason why I created this channel is to help others who may be struggling mentally, because I feel like mental health is a very common issue these days, and yeah, it's just like really hard to get through with no support or like no professional help. I personally have professional help and a supportive family and such. So for me, even though I do struggle a lot, I don't struggle as much as others. So I want to be a help towards others. So yeah, if you hear me talk about my mental health a lot, that's because that's kind of my target audience, guys. So don't be upset with me. Depression and bipolar disorder for a while, and I know like throughout the years, like when I would go through depressive episodes, you're just feeling very depressed. Like I would become very dependent on outside sources for happiness rather than looking for happiness in myself. And this became a very unhealthy habit. Like it's okay to have like, things you turn to make you happy, but like when I talk about unhealthily, how unhealthy it was for me to constantly grasp onto other things in desperate need for happiness, like it was bad, guys. It was really, really bad. And I feel like, now that I'm older, I am 19, dealing with mental health and stuff for like quite a while, I've learned that the most important source of happiness is yourself. Being happy with yourself, being happy with how your life's going and what you're doing and the person you are is the most important thing, because if you're not happy with yourself or being by yourself and all these other things, you are not truly happy. So, when you're having hard times and you're already not happy with yourself, you become 10 times more unhappy with yourself. And I feel like it's just important to start building happiness within yourself so that when you hit hard times or when you're very depressed, you still have some sort of stable base. I feel like being happy with yourself is like the base of happiness. Things can pile onto it, but like if you don't have the base, everything's gonna fall through, because, like I would depend on retail therapy. Like I would buy clothes like crazy when I'd get really sad, or I'd buy like just like nonsense. I remember like I spent hundreds and hundreds in K-pop albums when I'd get very depressed. And guys, oh my gosh, like once like the like happiness in the moment fell through and like just went away, boom, I was like super depressed again, because I wasn't even happy with myself. So like the small bit of happiness would run through my system and go right out, and then there'd be no happiness in my system because I'm not happy with myself, which is why I'm about to teach you guys how to become your own happiness. So on to tips. Also, guys, you are going to see me on my phone. That's because I planned out this entire video on my phone, so bear with me. But before I start talking about ways to become happy with yourself, I need to talk about forms of happiness that I feel like we should try to avoid or not depend on, because a lot of these were forms of happiness that I depended on that I soon realized were not the healthiest thing to be dependent on. So let's get through that. So one form of happiness that I've already kind of briefly touched on is retail therapy, or just spending your money to make yourself happy. This is probably like the worst form of happiness in my opinion, for multiple reasons. One, it's reckless. in my opinion. Like, mind you that these are my opinions, so if you follow up and do these things and you think it really works for you, good for you, but like, this is just how I view things. But in my opinion, it's a very reckless way of happiness because, you know, like I said, I would spend hundreds on K-pop albums, and like, K-pop stuff is not the only thing I spent my money on. I spent my money on like clothing and other nonsense that like I barely can even recall these days. And like, mind you, as like a person with like no responsibilities and stuff, like spending like $1,000 on just nonsense to me is insane. But yeah, especially nonsense that I can't recall. Like, half the stuff I either no longer value, don't own anymore, or literally don't remember that I ever bought it. So like, it's literally nonsense. And $2,000, like, oh my goodness, I could use $2,000 today. But retail therapy, like, the happiness of it wears off so quickly, and people will be like, oh, money does buy happiness, but like, every time I brought something, I'd be happy for a moment. Like, I'd be so excited to open it, this, then, the other, and I'd be like, oh man, this was such a great purchase. And then, you know, in a couple days, you know, the feeling of depression is still there, and the purchase meant nothing. You know, it did not make me truly happy. It just made me momentarily happy. And the moment was like, I don't know, an hour at most. Like, I was like, wow, I'm so happy. And then, like, boom, I'm over it by the next day. So, I personally say to avoid retail therapy at all costs. Now, if you're down and you want to buy yourself something nice every now and then, that's fine, but do not depend on purchases to make you happy. You're going to lose money in the process, and you're going to regret more than half or even 70 or 80% of your purchases. And you're just going to be very disappointed with yourself. And I would not recommend it. And I feel like I'm a very trustworthy source, so like, you guys should just listen to me. Anyway, the next thing I'd say to avoid depending on happiness from is friendships and relationships, mainly romantic relationships, but also friendships. And the reason why I say to not depend on happiness from these two things in particular is because, one, that is a form of, sorry, I'm looking down at my phone because I'm just so forgetful. It's a form of emotional dependency. Emotional dependency is when a person is in a state of mind where they cannot take full responsibility of their emotions or feelings. So, you know, if you cannot form and like have stable happiness without someone else, that's a form of emotional dependency. So if you need this person in your life, or you depend on this person to bring you happiness, that's a form of emotional dependency. And this is a very dangerous line to cross. Like, I have crossed that line several times. Like, I was like so down, hated myself so much, so I'd encounter somebody, I would really like them as a friend or romantically, and I would like put all my emotion into them, and when it seemed like they didn't want to talk to me, or it seems like they probably didn't like me, or if we ran into issues, it would emotionally distress me so much, because it's like, this person is my joy. Like, they are literally my joy. And, you know, if anything were to happen, if they were to leave me or anything, I would be so unhappy because they are literally my source of happiness. And it just becomes like very unhealthy because you become attached in an unhealthy way. Like, you know, you can be attached to somebody and be very happy with their presence and such, but having to depend on somebody for an emotion and then not wanting them to leave because they are the source of this emotion is very, very, very unhealthy. So, yeah, I'd personally say to avoid this. And also, when you are emotionally dependent on someone, in a sense, when they are not fulfilling your needs or wants, you begin to be upset and have almost animosity towards them because they're not fulfilling your needs. And whether you make your need known or not, like, it's not that person's responsibility to, you know, uphold your emotions. Those are your emotions, your problems, your thing. Like, and then like, alongside just like avoiding to like And then alongside, like, not putting your responsibilities onto others, I feel like it's just very important to have your own source of happiness because, you don't know what's going to happen. I've had people that I depended on for happiness or who made me very happy in dark times. So they like uplifted me a lot. Like they would just like dip or things would happen and we wouldn't, be friends and all these other things in the long run. So it was very important for me to have my own happiness outside of these people because, you know, relationships with people, romantic or platonic, don't always last. So it's important to have your own source of happiness and to be independent because things just go down, unfortunately. So yeah, on to the next tip. And then like the last thing I want to touch on, because there's like a lot of forms of happiness that I could touch on, but I don't want to be rambling forever. Another one is parasocial relationships. Like all my little K-pop fans out here, you probably know what a parasocial relationship is. But if you don't know, it's basically when like a celebrity or YouTuber, influencer, or somebody is online and you feel like you have a relationship with them in a sense. It's a one-sided relationship. Like you feel very connected with this person, but this person literally doesn't know anything about you. So like, parasocial relationships are actually quite normal, but they can become unhealthy. So like K-pop idols. If you're a K-pop fan, yeah, you probably already know what I'm getting into. K-pop idols are very friendly. They do live streams and such. So they tend to build parasocial relationships. They feel very connected. You get to see the idols' lives and all these other things, and get to know stuff about their personality, and you feel very connected. But at the end of the day, they don't know who you are, and it can get unhealthy. But parasocial relationships can become very unhealthy because when you're depending on a stranger for happiness, and this person like slips up or something, or they just go off grid and just stop, posting, like boom, your happiness is gone. Like, like oh my gosh, there's so many like influencers and YouTubers and celebrities that just disappear sometimes, and like you never see them again, or like they just switch up, like the situation with Doja Cat. Doja Cat switched up and started, hating her fans. I don't know if she genuinely hates her fans or she was just saying that. I don't really keep up with celebrity culture too much. But like, a lot of people who had a parasocial relationship with her or who are very connected with her were very disappointed at the end of the day because they're like, we love you, we brought you up, this, that, and the other. And my thoughts about the whole situation is to not be that connected to an artist. Like at the end of the day, these are people, and some people are just not the best people. So, like, if she doesn't like you guys, that's really sad. But, and I think that was like one of the biggest situations where I saw like multiple people be disappointed with their parasocial relationship. Like, oh man, this person has like done something terrible. Or like when, influencers or such run into controversies that make you like really question your relationship with them, and it's like so it's just like don't depend on a relationship with someone you don't know because you don't know what's gonna happen. Anyways, enough rambling, onto the actual tips that I was supposed to get to like forever ago. The first way to become your own happiness is to one, change your mindset and attitude about things. So I remember when I was very like down and feeding into my depression, like I would think, hateful thoughts about myself, hateful thoughts about life, and all these other things. Like, man, I wish I didn't wake up today. All these like crazy, terrible things, and wonder, dang, why am I not happy? It's because my mindset was just terrible. That's why I was unhappy, because like my mindset was like, man, I hate life, I hate this, I hate that, I hate myself. So you gotta change your mindset and your attitude about things, and this is pretty hard to do, honestly, in my opinion, from my experience, because like if you get so accustomed to a way of thinking, to think otherwise and to think the exact opposite can be tricky. But I think it's just being kinder to yourself, taking time, effort, and patience, because better days come, and become more appreciative too. I became more appreciative of myself, appreciative of the things that were happening throughout the day, and it just helped me become more happy with my life and with the things around me. My next tip is to do peaceful and grounding methods. So I feel like when we are very depressed or very down, we tend to get very caught up in our emotions. So we should do things that ground ourselves. So, to become more happy with myself, I began going for walks because walks are very quiet and peaceful. I wouldn't really talk. I would, even go listen to music while I'm walking, very calming music. And it helped me feel in the moment and present. So I began to feel connected with myself. Because I feel like when we are very depressed, we tend to kind of disconnect from ourselves in a sense. Because we're no longer viewing, the good in life and all these other things. We tend to view the bad, view this, that, and the other. We don't really view things in the bigger picture, We tend to focus in on these small things like, this is why my life's terrible, this sucks, that sucks, like, ugh. So, other grounding techniques are, breathing exercises, yoga. I personally haven't dabbled in yoga, but I am very curious about it. And, drawing or listening to calm music. Just do something that's very calming and relaxing. Ooh, and puzzles. Puzzles are a great grounding technique, at least for me. Like, I love just focusing in, trying to get every piece down because I do like those big 1,000 piece ones. Like, I love them. I love them. Next up is to surround yourself with positivity. To become more happy with yourself, you need to be aware of your surroundings and how your surroundings affect you. Because I remember my social media was depressing. Like, all these like sad, relatable posts would be on my timeline, or the people I was associating with were very depressing people. And my room was always a depression room, like very messy and like, I was surrounding myself with depression. So to become happier with yourself, you need to surround yourself with what you are striving for. So, I began altering my social medias and, looking at more motivating posts or more just funny, stupid posts. Like, I like watching cat videos a lot, like of little kittens on TikTok. Or, surrounding yourself with more positive people. Anyways, there's like a lot of people that I had to cut off, and then I had to bring a lot of new people into my life to start feeling more positive. And then, my room, I tend to tidy up my room to avoid having it too messy. Because when I feel like my room is clean and put together, I feel clean and put together. So just surround yourself with what you are striving for. Then another way to become your own happiness is to get into self-care. I think caring for yourself and making yourself feel seen and important is something that's so helpful. So, for me, I got into breathing exercises. That's something that was recommended by my therapist. It's just breathing, feeling in the moment, like you gotta breathe. Put them lungs to use. Anyways, then get into journaling, or you get really into skincare. Like, you don't have to buy like the most expensive things. Like, buy like cheap little face masks. You can get them at like Five and Below and stuff. Do like simple skincare. Try and get more sleep, meditate, all these other things that just make you feel seen. Because when you see yourself and you feel noticed and important, you feel so much better. And like, you don't have to be seen by others. When I say feel seen, it's like to feel like you exist in a sense. Because I feel like when I was like really depressed, like I would just throw away responsibilities. I wouldn't really care for myself. Like, I would get really low. Like, honestly, it was terrible. And I would like completely ignore my own existence. Like, I would just rot away in my bed. So when I say feel seen, it's like do things that make you feel like you exist and that you are a person in a sense. So yeah, I feel like that's one of the most helpful tips, or at least was most helpful for me. But on to the next tip. My last tip is to realize your self-worth. I feel like when we are very depressed, a part of the reason why we are depressed, because like, although depression is like a mental health issue to an extent, I do feel like it's also tied into like the way we treat ourselves. Like, the way we treat ourselves can worsen it. So, you know, when we are depressed, a part of the reason why our depression may worsen is because we do not value ourselves and we don't care for ourselves. So we start to reflect that in our actions. We don't, we let people run over us. We don't care for ourselves. We don't keep up with ourselves. We don't do the things we want to, and all these other things because we do not value ourselves. So realize your self worth and realize you are worth, love, you're worth time, you're worth energy and attention. And once you start realizing this, you start feeling 10 times better because I know, when I felt like I was worth nothing, I would just let anything go. Like, I would let people treat me however, I would let, just terrible things happen in my life, and I would be like, oh, whatever, like, it's not even that important anyways. And it really got me down. It would get me 10 times more down, and I'd wonder, dang, why am I so depressed? Like, but that is about it for my tips, guys. Brownie, what do you think about this? I think these were really helpful tips, girl. Heck yeah, they were. Anyway, okay. So I think that's about it for my video. Hopefully you guys take these tips and apply them and find ways to become happier. And if you have your own personal tips, drop them down in the comment section because I feel like we need to build a community and help each other out. Times are rough, life is rough, and we have ourselves and each other. And we should definitely help each other out. Like, being kind and being helpful costs nothing. So do it. Anyways, that's about it. This is Gomi signing out. Bye.